Hare Krishna. My name is Titikshava Krunaka, and we are here at ISKCON Juhu, and I have been asked to talk a little bit about reincarnation. The question is, do you believe in reincarnation? Well, Krishna gives us a very nice explanation in Bhagavad Gita. Dehi nosmin yataudehi kaumaram yovanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. He explains that as the embodied soul continually passes in this lifetime from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at the time of death. So this explanation is very appropriate because we have personal experience of the fact that at one time we were a small child, then we had a youth's body, now we have an older, mature body. So the body is constantly changing even in this lifetime. And we can see this by practical experience of our own body and of those around us. So even science has admitted that the cells of the body are completely replaced after 7 years. So that means even the brain, even the bones, everything has been completely replaced. That means that 7 years ago you had one body, and now you have a completely different material body. But our identity remains intact. So how is that? What is that? That is the soul. So the soul is eternal and does not die when the body dies. So if the soul doesn't die and the body dies, what happens? This is where reincarnation comes in. If the soul has not reached the perfectional stage of pure love of God, then the soul is forced to reincarnate into the womb of another mother and take birth again in the material world. So there are many, many different types of bodies that one can occupy while in this material world. 8,400,000 different species of life are there. And according to the desire and the mentality of the soul at the time of death, that will be determined. And then you will be put into the womb of a certain mother and take birth in a certain family, in a certain place, all according to your previous activities. So reincarnation, the concept of reincarnation, the concept of reincarnation is very, very important in order to understand how things are working in this material world. If one does not understand reincarnation, then it's very, very difficult to see how God is working over the span of many, many lifetimes. If we see that there's only one lifetime, if we take it that there's only one lifetime, then how is it possible that one person is born into a very, very rich family with good education, with sufficient beauty, all things that are desirable, and then on the other hand someone else is born into a family which is very, very poor, uneducated, without food or clothing, and with bodily features that may not be so attractive? So how is this possible? If God is fair, if God is just, and there's only one chance, it doesn't make sense. The mind has a very, very difficult time accepting that God would do this to me. You know, say perhaps I'm born into a family where there's no money, and my parents are always struggling, and my brothers and sisters are always sick. And I'm thinking, why has God put me into this situation? While somewhere else down the street or in another country, someone is living with a silver spoon in his mouth and palatial living quarters. Why has God done this to me? How is this possible? But when we take into the fact that reincarnation is actually there, and that the previous lifetime has led to this particular lifetime, then it starts to make sense. Then we can understand that actually God is very just and everything is happening according to my own desire. We have to ultimately take responsibility for our own situation. And sometimes it's very difficult. It's very difficult to understand why we are in such a situation. What have I done to deserve this? Sometimes the question comes to mind. But if we understand that Krishna is actually all-powerful and all-good, and that everything is happening for a reason, then we learn to adjust our mind and accept any situation. Just for instance, like sometimes I'll find myself in a very, poor situation or difficult situation, and I'm questioning God, why have you done this to me? What have I done to deserve this? And then I think, okay, well, whatever it is, there must be some reason. So I put forth the prayer, dear God, dear Krishna, let me suffer or enjoy my karma with dignity and grace. And I pray like this. And in this way, I gain strength to just forge on and continue in devotional service, despite the circumstances. Because ultimately, the devotee has to come to the point where, whether he's in heaven or in hell, he continues his preaching work. And this is sometimes tested. Krishna will test us. So when we find ourselves in a difficult situation, we have to see it as an opportunity to prove to Krishna that yes, we're ready for this test. Bring it on. Let me do it. I'm ready for it. And then Krishna will be pleased. And then once that test has been passed, then we move forward like this. But again, unless one accepts the reincarnation as a fact, then it's very, very difficult to have this kind of mindset. So we encourage everyone to think about this and somehow or another realize that this lifetime is just a drop in the bucket of so many, many lifetimes. Actually, Srila Prabhupada said that we've been in this material world since time immemorial, which means you cannot even trace out how many births you have taken previously. Now we have an opportunity to utilize this human form to try to understand about Krishna, to try to understand why we're here, try to understand where we will go when we leave this body. So please utilize this human form and take the advantage of all of Srila Prabhupada's teachings and go back to Godhead and be happy. And don't take birth again. Don't reincarnate. Stop this cycle of birth and death, which will go on continuously until we perfect our spiritual journey. Okay, so thank you very, very much for listening. Hare Krishna.